Well, what's up, everybody? I'm back with a new Marina McBain video. This one is about Harry Potter. The Harry Potter reboot keeps getting worse. The race swap thing is really pissing a lot of people off. Like the casual Harry Potter fans, the really deep Harry Potter fan, and it's just getting ratioed to death, and they got nobody to blame for but themselves. They knew exactly what they were doing. They could have just, if they was going to be faithful to the source material, then why would you go out your way to race swap prominent character that is distinctly described as pretty much a white person? And Papa Sadidu, however you pronounce his name, he should have known better. I understand you wanna, this is like a big deal breakout role for you potentially, but have some level of self-respect. If you know anything about the source material, I'm pretty sure you should be. You know full well this character is meant for a white person. Now, unless it gets leaked that the casting director specifically only wanted somebody black, then yeah, then they'll change things. Then it was specifically on the studio. But if it is kind of left up in the air, that anybody who isn't white should not have even attempted to audition. There's not one of those characters that can be, left up in the air in terms of how that person should look. But anyway, in case you know what Marina thinks, I'll leave the link to the original video in the description below if you're watching this on YouTube. Please follow Marina McBain's channel, show your support. Follow me on my channel, Talkative Carl, on YouTube and Twitch, as I stream games, react to videos, and review content. So, without further ado, let's get right into it.
So the trailer for the new Harry Potter TV show just dropped, and yeah, we need to talk about it. Because this thing has completely taken over the internet. Within just 48 hours, it had 277 million views, breaking HBO's own record for the most watched trailer in their entire history. But the overall reaction to it has been interesting to say the least.
Harry Potter trailer, it does not look right.
What the frick is this? We're not supposed to be in a college campus.
Can we all please agree to just boycott the new Harry Potter?
If you watched my Harry Potter video from last year, then you will already know how I feel about this reboot. Why are we remaking a 15-year-old story that's more culturally popular than ever before? And the trailer's done absolutely nothing to answer that question for me. If anything, it's just raised more. There is literally so much to talk about here that I don't even know where to start. We've got casting controversies that ended up involving the literal police. We've got a color palette that made everyone think their screen was broken. We've got book fans absolutely losing their minds over a haircut. And we've got a budget so ridiculous that when I tell you the number, you are going to audibly gasp. I have been waiting so long to make this video, and I have a lot to say, so let's just jump straight into it. No messing about today. I thought the best way to do this was just to take you through the trailer with me, moment by moment, because honestly, my reaction will tell you everything you need to know. So the trailer starts off with Harry outside of the Wizarding World, showing him in the cupboard under the stairs and getting bullied by Dudley at school. So about 5 seconds into this, my honest reaction was, am I watching the right trailer? No, like I actually thought I clicked on some random BBC crime drama. I can tell they're really trying to go for that gritty realism, but the vibes are giving more eerie cold case than magical fantasy. I will say, I think the casting for Harry is spot on. Obviously, there's not much to go off from the trailer alone, but I could see the childlike wonder in his eyes, and I really think he's gonna do a good job. Also, the fact that we get to see him outside of Hogwarts, attending Muggle school, and riding on the tube is...
Okay, their little explanation from what I've understood is it's gotta show like a night and day type of feel. Like the Muggle world has to look kind of dreary, while when you get into the Wizarding world, things are a little bit more brighter. We'll see. However, I do say that there's a clip when they're on the train to Hogwarts. We see it's still kind of, it's the same issue we had with the Snyderverse, where it's like it doesn't seem like, where's the light switch? Why is, it seems like the light's not on. That's how I feel when you look at Hermione. It looks like she's just cloaked in shadow or something like that. Turn the light on or something.
That's so exciting. It just feels so British and I love it. But then we get to the moment that actually made me pause the trailer. The Dursleys. Why are they hot? No, seriously, just look at them compared to the originals. The Dursleys are supposed to feel painfully normal, slightly awkward, a bit unpleasant, and very real. But these new Dursleys look like 20-year-old on their way to a fancy dress party. And I know that seems like such a random thing to complain about, but it's actually a part of a much bigger problem. Because why does Hollywood refuse to cast normal-looking people? Instead of finding an actor who actually looks the part, they'll take someone conventionally attractive and just slightly downgrade them a little bit. And it just never works, ever, because behind those glasses, I can still see that flawless skin. You can't hide that from me. I promise you that once you are aware of it, you will not be able to unsee it in modern movies. Another weird casting choice that I saw at the start of the trailer is Hagrid. Now, when I first saw photos of Nick Frost as this character, I actually thought he looked great. But after watching him in the trailer, I'm starting to think that maybe I was blinded by the costume. It's his voice that really bothers me because Hagrid is supposed to sound like this rugged, lovable farmer. Even when he's trying to be gentle, he's still loud and unaware of his size and strength. Just listen to the original.
It's not every day your young man turns 11 now, is it? Hey?
But in this new trailer, Nick Frost is just using his normal voice. I'm not joking.
They stood up for what they believed was right. The next time I see you, we'll be in Hogwarts.
His voice just doesn't match Hagrid's appearance. It sounds way too posh, and I'm not saying he needed to do a straight impression of the original, but he could have at least added some more grit to it. But what's interesting is that I had the exact same complaint about him in How to Train Your Dragon, because he took what was an iconic Scottish character and just used his normal English accent.
It's the wings and the tails you really want. If it can't fly, it can't get away.
You can't stop him, Stoic. You can only prepare him.
And at first I thought, well, maybe that's just a character choice, but now hearing his voice as Hagrid, I've come to the conclusion that he just can't do accents. And that just really sucks because there are far too many actors out there who would have been perfect for this role instead. Why are we making exceptions just because someone has a big name attached to them? Harry Potter is big enough on its own. It didn't need that. It's so frustrating. Anyway, we then see Harry on the train where he meets Ron and Hermione for the first time, and honestly guys, I don't have a bad word to say about these three. I think they're absolutely adorable, and I totally buy them as the characters. This is also where we see Mrs. Weasley for the first time, and again, I'm back to being annoyed. This is not a stressed out mum of 7, this is a woman who gets 8 hours of sleep every night. Again, compare this to the original actress who fit perfectly in this role. It just feeds into the same problem I have, where everyone in this trailer looks a bit too polished and put together. And for me, that just reminds me I'm watching people play these characters and not believing they are them, which is really not good. I will say, I absolutely adore the costuming. I love
Nick Frost is basically cosplay. And a lot of people is having their complaints about Nick Frost. He's a really good actor, but he's not Hagrid.
Casual style they went for, and you can just tell it's the 90s. My only wish is that we could see them a little bit better, because for some reason the whole trailer has this weird blue filter over it. It completely mutes the color of every shot to the point where you can't tell if something's red or brown. Everything just exists in this grey-blue void, and it is so distracting. But hey, maybe it was a creative choice to make the Muggle world look dull and grey so that when we get to Hogwarts, it's bursting with color and light, because that would be really clever. But when we got to Hogwarts, it was exactly the same. These were the most colorful shots I could find in the trailer. Who was responsible for applying the Twilight filter? Please raise your hand, because I genuinely don't understand how anyone could look at that color palette and go, yeah, this is the vibe we want for Harry Potter. This is supposed to be a magical, fantastical world that children dream about, and all I'm feeling whilst watching this is depressed. Now you may be wondering, how are all the other shots in the trailer? I wouldn't know, because I couldn't bloody see them. I had to turn my brightness to the max when watching this trailer because it was so ridiculously dark. Just look at this shot. You can see the light coming through the back window, meaning that it's supposed to be daytime, yet you can hardly see their faces. If you put a screenshot of the HBO trailer next to a screenshot from the 2001 film, the difference is so obvious, it's almost comical. The original films had this warm, soft golden lighting, which made it feel so magical. Apparently someone who worked on the movie said that they're going for more natural lighting like they did in the Prisoner of Azkaban movie, but that doesn't make sense at all because Prisoner of Azkaban still had color and depth, whereas the trailer looks like it was drained of all life. It honestly looks closer to Game of Thrones than it does Harry Potter. This trend of draining color out of everything has been happening across so many different productions lately, and it drives me mad. For example, the movie Wicked should have been the most visually stunning movie of the decade, and instead it ended up looking grey. The pinks weren't really pinks, the greens weren't really green, and everything had this weird grey haze over it. Even though the sets and costumes were literally bright and colourful, the way it was shot and colour graded sucked all the life out of it. This also happened with the new Devil Wears Prada 2, literally the exact same thing. If you look at the original movie, it has this really warm early 2000s look. The lighting feels softer and the colours actually look alive. So imagine the shock when the trailer for the sequel comes out and it looks anything but warm. It's that same cold grey filter over the whole thing, which makes it look more like a commercial than a movie. Why even bother bother making a sequel if you're just gonna suck the soul out of it? I literally do not get it. It kind of feels like filmmakers have decided that making things look more realistic and grey somehow makes it more serious. But Harry Potter is not supposed to be serious. It's a story about children discovering magic. The colour and warmth of the original films was not an accident. It was telling you something about the world. It was saying this place is special, this place feels different, and this place has wonder in it. Taking that away and replacing it with this grey-blue filter was definitely a choice, and based on what I've seen so far, I'm not too sure it was the right one. But apart from that, every other character that we saw in the trailer looks good so far. No one necessarily stands out in a good or bad way, so I guess that's a good thing. Well, that is apart from the huge elephant in the room, which I obviously have to mention. You know, the one thing about this reboot that has caused so much controversy that you literally can't escape it. Draco Malfoy's Gen Z haircut. Seriously, whose idea was it to give this boy the 2020 broccoli
Oh, the broccoli hair. They did the same thing with Superman. Oh my god, I hate that look. Why is that popular? Gen Z people, why is that popular? What makes that cool?
special. The whole point of Draco's look in the original is that it communicates old money, pure blood arrogance before he even opens his mouth. The slicked back platinum blonde hair said, I have never once touched a doorknob. Someone opens doors for me. The new hair says, I post TikToks for a living. It's just not the same energy, is it? But okay, I'm sorry I lied. That's actually not what I wanted to talk about. There is obviously something else that we need to address, the real controversy that has been dominating headlines for months. And yes, we are talking about Snape. The issue is that from the very beginning of this reboot, the creators promised that it would be a faithful adaptation of the book. And they stuck to their word with every single casting choice but one, Snape. The book describes him as a sickly looking pale man with greasy black hair and a hook nose. And who do they cast? Papa Essiedu. Not only is this race swap extremely problematic to the story, which we will talk about in a minute, but there's another reason that I don't hear many people talking about. My initial reaction when this casting was first announced was, okay, but Snape is supposed to be this deeply unattractive, unsettling looking man, and Papa Essiedu is objectively attractive. How is that gonna work? Snape's entire backstory hinges on the fact that he was an ugly, poor, awkward kid who got absolutely destroyed by the cool popular boys for years. By casting someone conventionally attractive, it doesn't make his backstory believable. But I thought, hey, maybe I'm judging too soon. They'll probably ugly him up a little bit for the role, right? But then I remember what they did to the Dursleys and to Mrs. Weasley. In the trailer, they made him look even more stylish and cool than he does in real life, with the black zip-up turtleneck and the accessories in his hair. This is in no way giving Snape, like, at all. He looks like he belongs in the cover of a magazine, not lurking around the dungeons deducting points from Gryffindor. And look, if they had cast a stunning blonde model as Snape, I would still be saying the same thing. The character was written the way it was for a reason. Also, Snape was probably the worst character for them to change so drastically. Alan Rickman's portrayal of the character will forever be cemented not only in Hollywood, but also in the minds of everyone. It's such a distinct character, and his performance was so iconic that no one will ever be able to live up to it. That bar was always going to be impossible to reach, but what I don't understand is, why do you then go and cast someone who looks nothing like the character? Whilst I can understand that the intention behind the casting might have been to add more diversity to the story, there is a deeper problematic issue here that they clearly didn't consider. And I think the best way I can explain this is by showing you this amazing creators video. So as you can see, this goes so much deeper than just a simple race swap, and I have a feeling the people who made this decision didn't really take the time to think it through.
But this casting is potentially problematic, because in order for it to make sense that Snape is black, you have to not just change fundamental aspects of Snape's character, you have to change fundamental aspects of everybody's character. Here's the truth about being black. Whether we want to admit it or not, our skin color tells a story all by itself, and you have to make room for that story. They bullied Snape. Didn't James Potter have him levitating in the air, suspending from the air? Y'all are really gonna have James Potter essentially hanging this black man. It changes the way we view Harry when he's suspicious of the one black professor. This is a weird move.
And the response to this casting was bad, like genuinely bad. Papa Essiedu came out and said that he started receiving racist death threats about his casting. It got so extreme to the point where the police had to put safety measures in place for him. That is literally insane. And obviously that is disgusting, and those people are horrible, there is no debate there, but what really gets me is that HBO knew this would happen. You cannot sit in a casting meeting, look at this character, and then look at your choice and be genuinely surprised that it blows up. I can't help but feel like on some...
They didn't care. They wanted this. They wanted the controversy. They think there's going to get more eyes, more people to watch their little show, instead of relying on the goodwill of the IP in of itself, because the audience will be there no matter what. But I would say, the studios or people behind the scenes clearly wanted those people who have not seen the films or not read the books, who aren't Harry Potter fans, not even on a casual level, to come see this as much as possible. But it is so disingenuous. It's just so like selfish in a way where it's like you did not care how it blows up as long as it does, because it's like you knew the kind of trouble this actor was going to get into. And so far as like those death threats, yeah, horrible. Nobody should go through that. Anybody should, nobody ever should go through something like that. But let's be honest, most people on the internet will get, death threats on, certain topics. There are people out there who got death threats because they think pineapple belongs on pizza. I actually do think pineapple belongs on people's pizza, but you catch my drift. So it's like it's not uniquely tied to actors alone. But you accepted a role. You knew like there's probably going to be a chance, there'll be like a strong chance, there'll be some level of backlash, possibly hate. So you sitting there acting all astonished, it's kind of bewildering in of itself. So nobody, not the actor, not the writers or showrunners, not Warner Brothers themselves, nobody should really be surprised. But they got the gall to act surprised. Like, we never saw this coming. This is so shut up. You knew exactly what was going to happen. You knew exactly what kind of trouble you were going to get this actor into, because he didn't ask for this, but he should have anticipated the backlash.
Level that was almost the point. Because think about it, nothing has kept this show in the news more consistently.
Most black people don't even think this is a good idea.
Every YouTube video, every Reddit thread, every Twitter argument for months has been about Snape. That's free publicity on a massive scale. So what I find really comfortable is the idea that they potentially put this man into the direct firing line of some of the worst people on the internet just for their potential benefit. Whether it was intentional or not, that's what happened, and they knew it would happen, and that's what feels really wrong to me. But speaking about decisions that cause controversy, we cannot talk about modern Harry Potter without addressing the giant Dementor hanging over it. J.K. Rowling's public reputation. Over the past several years, J.K. Rowling has been the subject of intense controversy due to her anti-transgender comments online. Many people, including the majority of the original Harry Potter cast, have publicly criticized her for this. So when people found out that she was a producer on this new Harry Potter TV show, they were pissed and they demanded that HBO release a statement. That's when the CEO of HBO, Casey Bloys, came out and said that basically they've been working together for 25 years and nothing is going to change that. He goes on to say that no, Harry Potter is not being secretly infused with anything. I think it's pretty clear that those are her own personal political views and she's entitled to them. If you want to debate her, go on Twitter. They basically said, of course she's involved, it is literally her story and her opinions completely stay out of it. Which, I mean, he's not wrong. At the end of the day, it is her story and it's up to us as individuals whether we want to support that or not. It's clear that this new cast are putting their differences aside to be a part of this project. Nick Frost, who plays Hagrid, said, she's allowed her opinions and I'm allowed mine. They just don't align in any way, shape or form. And honestly, that's probably the most honest thing that anyone connected to this production has said publicly. Whether you agree with it or not, everyone is in it for themselves, everyone is in it for the money, and that is just the way it is. So look, I'm not going to tell you to watch it or not because
I find it kind of ironic that as progressive as some of these people claim to be, they clearly kind of ignore the fact that J.K. Rowling is fighting for women and women's rights. And trans people, they're pretty much cosplaying. They're, it's like, they want to call themselves women. Yeah, they don't belong in women's spaces. I'm sorry. It's just, she's fighting for her rights of women in women's spaces, but yet, she's the bad guy. She's the bad guy because, she's fighting for women's rights, women's spaces, things that women fought for years, but then you let certain people try to intermingle in stuff that they don't belong in. And of course, most women who wants to be very nice and hand-holdy about it, but then as soon as they go into certain bathrooms and you see somebody, a dude in a dress go in the bathroom or go to the Olympic sports, then winning certain medals, then all of a sudden it's like, you got a frown on your face. Well, it's like you kind of asked for it because you didn't fight against it, because there are certain things that belong to just women. And that's what J.K. Rowling is kind of fighting for, but then she's getting unnecessary backlash. Now, you don't have to agree with her, That's perfectly fine. But then I find it kind of bothersome that the people that J.K. Rowling made famous, outside of maybe a couple of people, one of them being the actor who played Draco Malfoy, the original actor, it's like they all, most of them are turning back against us. Like, look, I don't like you guys, but don't forget the fact that y'all only got this far in your careers because Harry Potter, the IP she created, that you took a part of, made you open doors for you to be as famous as you are. You owe a lot to this woman. You don't have to agree with her, but at the very least, you should not turn your back against her. Y'all did, except for the Malfoy actor and one other person. I can't remember. But it's like, wow, y'all are so, like, ungrateful. It gives ungratefulness.
I think that is genuinely a personal choice. Just please don't be a hypocrite about it. That is all I ask. But anyway, let's just put all of that to the side and focus back on the trailer, because there are some things that genuinely look good. The production design is stunning, the sets look beautifully detailed, and you can tell an insane amount of work and craft went into building this world. The kids seem sweet and charming, and I really do think they have the right energy, and the rest of the cast look great. But none of that actually fixes what I think the biggest flaw is of this entire production. It's not the casting or the color grading or anything we've already talked about, it's the concept itself. The main reason why people are excited about this show is that it's going to be completely book accurate. For example, everyone was going crazy over this one scene in the trailer where Aunt Petunia is cutting Harry's hair because that wasn't included in the original movie. And it's like, yeah, I can understand how that would excite the 1% of people who have memorized the books, but it's also kind of irrelevant. What I'm trying to say is that there was a reason it was cut from the movie, and I think that shows the potential flaw of this new show. Because yes, having 8 hours to put every single detail from the book onto screen sounds amazing, but there's an also very real chance that that just doesn't translate well. When we look at the Harry Potter films, the first one especially stands out to me because it understood something crucial. It knew it needed to keep the audience engaged. It wasn't trying to include every single detail, it was trying to make something watchable. Because people seem to forget that the Philosopher's Stone is not this dense, complex piece of literature, it's a 300-page children's book, which means that a solid portion of it is just Harry existing in various places doing the most mundane things like eating and sleeping. And that works in a book because reading is an active thing. Your brain is filling in the gaps, creating the world, and making the magic feel real. The slower moments work because your brain is doing the work alongside them. But watching TV is the complete opposite of that. Your brain fully checks out and just absorbs what's being shown, which means that every single second on screen has to earn its place. So of course the original filmmakers cut out things like Aunt Petunia cutting Harry's hair, not because they didn't care about the books, but because they knew how to make a good movie. What you end up with is a film that's actually engaging, magical, and paced in a way that keeps you watching. Now take that same story and stretch it into 8 hours. What are you left with? Because all the essential stuff was covered in those 2 hours of the movie. So all that you're left with is those filler moments from the book that didn't make it into the movie for a reason. And I do think that's kind of already showing in the trailer. Because for something that's supposed to be about magic, it feels so empty. Did you know that there wasn't one moment in the trailer where we saw any magic? Not one. It was just filled with moments that 99% of people aren't gonna realize are from the books, which just makes me think, who was this made for? Because the average viewer isn't watching the show to go, oh my gosh, he's cutting his toenails just like he did in chapter 4. No, they actually want to be entertained. They want to feel something. And I just don't know if stretching a relatively simple children's story into 8 hours is gonna give them that. If anything, it might do the opposite. This will definitely work in the later seasons because there is so much content in the books to build off of, but they're gonna have to really put in the work to make these early seasons watchable. Which kind of leads me to the main question of this video. What is the point? Because the way they're talking about this, you'd think the original films were some obscure, forgotten artifact dug up from the bottom of the river. They weren't. Deathly Hallows Part 2 came out in 2011 and they're trying to justify it by saying they're bringing the story to a new generation. But what I want to know is why they're acting like kids these days are allergic to movies made pre-2015. It just couldn't be further from the truth. Harry Potter is somehow more popular today than it was at its peak.
That's why I often make the suggestion that if they was going to make a Harry Potter series, I think it would have been great to have a story centered around either the founding of the Hogwarts houses, like the origins of the founders. You know, the Hufflepuff, the Slytherin, the Gryffindor, Ravenclaw. Or you set further in the future, like 50, 70 years away from Harry Potter, you would tell like an original story, you know, at Hogwarts with different a different class of characters. Or if you want to set in the era of the 90s, you can tell, like, or even modern day, I should say, you can tell stories from other schools from different countries. There is a thing. That is a thing. And you can have like a whole batch of characters to follow that isn't attached to Harry himself or his supporting cast. You can have whatever casting you want. You want to cast a black, teacher that kind of looks like Snape but not Snape. There you go, Papa SCD. You're a breakout role, but you don't have to worry about any kind of backlash because you're not taking over somebody else's role. But they really want to just recycle the same storyline that isn't all that old. This is how I felt about the How I Trained Your Dragon and Moana. It's like these movies aren't that freaking old to warrant a remake. I mean, typically remakes, at the very least, the movie or product has to be 50 years old, where most of the cast are like elderly or long since dead, and the fans are long since gone into their grandparent years. So it's like, yeah, now you can just like recycle the IP because the space is there.
I live in London, and I'm telling you that you cannot walk down a single street without seeing Harry Potter staring straight back at you. The merchandise is everywhere. The studio tours have queues out the door all year round. Hogwarts Legacy was one of the biggest games of 2023, so it's not dying. It's not even slowing down.
I'm still waiting for the Hogwarts Legacy sequel. I love that freaking game.
Do they quietly phase out the original cast and put these new kids' faces on everything? Because in the movie, they even have new Hogwarts logos and new uniforms. So that to me sounds like they're just going to completely replace everything. But I want to zoom out for a second because I actually think this Harry Potter reboot is a really interesting case study into a much bigger problem: the creative industry's complete and total dependence on familiar IP. We have now reached the point where studios are not just rebooting old things, they're rebooting things that are still living within cultural memory. And the part that annoys me is how much money is being put into this. HBO is reportedly spending $100 million on this series. And you may think that doesn't really sound like much, but wait till I tell you that's per episode. $100 million per episode! For context, the budget of the first Harry Potter film was around $125 million. That means just one episode of this new show cost nearly as much as the entire film. That's an insane amount of money for a show that's literally retelling a story we've already seen. And the thing is, we already know what happens when studios throw this kind of money at safe projects. Amazon's Rings of Power spent $58 million per episode and has been such a disappointment for the studio. That money could have funded a dozen original fantasy series from fantastic writers. You could have had another Harry Potter, another Lord of the Rings, but you just don't give them a chance. What I will never understand is why they didn't just do a spin-off show instead. Imagine if they did a show about the international schools, or the Hogwarts founders, or a Marauders sequel, stories that are just begging to be explored.
Did not watch this video before, mind you. This is something I've always talked about. I always talked about ad nauseum. I'm glad she shares my sentiment. I talk about this ad nauseum, but it's just like the proof is in the pudding right there. It's like J.K. Rowling built such an expansive world, similar to like how George Lucas built such an expansive world with Star Wars. You could tell a myriad of stories that isn't centered around the main people. Oh God, it's just right there and you just don't want to do it.
I just can't wrap my head around why they would want to start this new chapter by alienating majority of their fan base. It just doesn't make sense. We're not just talking about a random movie here, we're talking about characters that shaped generations. Harry, Ron, Hermione, Dumbledore, Snape, these are more than just fictional characters. They actively exist in the minds of so many people. And when you take characters that iconic and reboot them this soon, you're not just making a new show, you're asking people to replace them. You're asking entire generations who grew up with Daniel Radcliffe's face as Harry Potter to look at a different kid and feel the same thing. It just doesn't work like that. I think at best this show exists alongside the originals. I think at worst it might just tarnish Harry Potter's reputation. And neither of those outcomes justifies £5 billion and a decade of production. So the question I keep coming back to at the end of all of this is, if it can't be better and the originals are still popular, then what is the point? Because from where I'm standing, it looks less like a creative project and more like a corporation trying to squeeze every last drop out of something that didn't need to be touched. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. Please let me know down below what your opinion is on the trailer. I am so excited to read those comments. And if you made it...
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm still going to check out this. I will at least check out the first few episodes. Because honestly, aside from like little not nitpicks, but these little moments like the haircut scene and what have you, that was taken off obviously for a reason from in the movies. It's probably gonna be just another shot for shot. Maybe they'll add in new dialogues, but I'm not sure. I don't see the point of it is like I mentioned, they could have told other myriad stories that has nothing to do with the mainline story. Maybe they got scared because of the Fantastic Beast and how, like, you know, that didn't bode well for them. But to be fair, who really gives a damn crap about Newt? But anyway, leave a comment below, let me know what you guys think, and I'll see y'all for the next one. Peace.